Hi and welcome to the castle. I'm Lord Raven. Today I have my assistant Thornfeather here with me.
Hello.
Hey. So I have another prop here that's in poor shape, and we're going to try and save it. This is part of a group of tombstones that I purchased, and many of them have been outside almost an entire season, and some of them have suffered some water damage in the internal. So today we're going to open this up and see what we can do to save this. This is a plastic tombstone sold by Target in 2018 in their Hyde Eek line. Now I have a couple others like this that I bought over the years. You remember the talking opera singer and the talking skeleton?
Yeah, I really like the talking opera one.
Mm-hmm. So this one is cool because it's got the talking ghoul face at the top and lit candles at the bottom. Now most of the other ones I have are just the talking face. To be quite honest, these aren't my favorite type of tombstones personally. They're really light, so they blow over easily. I really don't think they're meant to be outside, even though they do have plastic feet that kind of keep them a little bit steady. This really feels like more of an indoor item. In any case, I don't have this one in my collection, and it is discontinued, so you can't find these anymore in the store. So I'd rather save it and use it. But before we get started, if you haven't already, please take a moment and like this video and subscribe to my channel. I appreciate all of my viewers and subscribers, and your support will help me build and bring in more Halloween fans. Getting started, I did clean up the exterior. There was some buildup from it being outside for a while. Now when I opened up the battery compartment, I could see some rust on the internals. That's not a great sign, since the interior of this has more electronics than your average prop. When I dried everything up and put some batteries in it, I got no motors, no lights at all. Also, when I use the switch here, I can tell it's really rusted up. It's moving really hard. I can move it barely, but I can really feel like it's got some rust inside. So it really looks like we got our work cut out for us. Let's start by removing this battery compartment and taking a look inside. Take these screws and set them down over there. So looking inside, I see we have some issues already. I can see some rust on many of the connections. I see a PCB here, which looks corroded, and the speaker here has some debris and rust inside. This isn't really a good sign for this prop. Now new, one of these was about $35. It's discontinued and no longer sold, so the chance that I'll be able to replace any of these components with factory parts is pretty much zero. In a lot of cases like this, we do have to work with what we have, and it's really about cleaning and restoring, and not so much about replacing. If there's parts that I can find online for a low price, I'll go ahead and try and get these things working, but I'm not really willing to spend a lot of money on a prop that was only $35 new. Before we go any further, I'm going to go take a picture of this component with my phone. That way, when I reassemble everything, I can make sure to get all the wires in the right spots. Now you can see this prop has some wires attached here that lead to the various parts of the mechanism. You have a moving face motor and a few connections for LEDs, plus this motion sensor. I'm going to start by removing this PCB and the speaker from the plastic housing, and then I'm going to unsolder the wires so I can separate everything. Then I'm going to remove all the metal connections from the battery compartment. The metal parts like the screws and the springs, as well as the plastic housing, are going to soak overnight in some white vinegar to take off that rust. Now looking at the PCB, I see some things I don't like. There's a lot of corrosion, and I can see some rust on the legs of the MOSFETs already. So there's definitely been some water inside. I'm going to try and clean this PCB up and test it, but I really don't have a lot of hope here. Remember, don't soak your PCBs in vinegar. If you miss any of that vinegar residue, it'll continue to corrode your PCB after you put it back together, and that leaves you with an even worse situation than you started. Instead, I'm actually going to use some 90% isopropyl alcohol and a Q-tip to gently try and remove some corrosion and see if I can get this chip to work again. We really have a lot of work to do on this one, so let's get started. So I let all the connections soak overnight, and then I tried to clean the PCB with alcohol. Unfortunately, I'm really seeing a big problem here. One of the pins that leads to the big chip has rusted off. Now I did try and resolder a wire to bridge that connection, but plugging it back in and testing it made it pretty clear that this whole PCB is dead. So we're going to have to change gears and give up on this prop ever working the way it once did. But since I don't have this prop in my collection, I'd really like to see if I can maybe get the lights working. If so, I can use it as a static prop. To be honest, I'm personally not really into the sound and movement of these props anyways, so this really gives me most of what I'm looking for in a tombstone. Now, since the moving face and the motion sensor are going to be useless, I'm really just going to focus on the LED lights here mounted on the candles. I want to see if they're still working first, and if not, I'll replace them. Then I'll have to rewire this battery compartment to bypass a majority of the internals. So I went into the back of this prop and I removed the connectors from the LED wires. I tested each one and discovered that the middle LED is not working, but the others are fine. So I need to replace the center LED. Now LEDs are fairly cheap. If you're really into repairing props, I'd recommend that you get a full box of all the main colors. That way you'll have plenty if you do come up with some other props that need the same fix. Now LEDs come in two main sizes, 3mm and 5mm. I'm going to go and solder one of these to the lead wires and get it all set. I'm not going to show this. There's a lot of other videos out there that cover soldering LEDs, so if you need to check that out, you can go and do that. So I'm going to get this done right now and be back in a second. Okay, here we go. We have our new LED and the wires. Now it's about attaching the LED to the body of the tombstone. Now this one is a little bit more complicated since the wires actually pass through a section of the body and then come out the base into the main section of the tombstone. So you can see I've got the wires fed in already. I did that just because it's a little bit more difficult. So we're just going to pull the rest of these wires through so that the LED is close. Now, Thornfeather, if you could help me feed this in, just push those wires in while I pull from behind. And you can see how this feeds right down into there. That's good. And you can stop when we get close. Awesome.
That looks pretty good.
Yep, that looks good. So the last thing that we're going to do is secure this LED on the candle there with some hot glue. As I mentioned in my other videos, hot glue is a great repair tool for these props. It's cheap, it dries quick, it's waterproof, and it can be used on electrical components because it's an insulator. So we're going to put a small blob of hot glue there onto the candle base and then secure the LED in and hold it until the glue cools. So I'm going to go ahead and do this here. Get a nice blob there. You can go ahead and push that down into the glue and then just hold it there with your finger. Okay, good. Make sure it's seated down further here. There we go. Then you can hold it just like that against the base, okay? Good. Okay, now we just have to wait a few moments until that cools and it'll be all solid. Okay, so we have our wire fed through and we've stripped all of our wires in the back. Now we're going to go and connect them all, and we're going to use one of these low temperature solder connectors right here. This is a great thing to use to connect because it gives you a nice solid waterproof connection. Now each of these connections is going to take a total of 4 wires, 2 in one side and 2 in the other, and we're going to split them up there so it's a nice even seal on the ends. This is a shrink wrap material, so it'll seal both sides evenly when we do that. I have this all set up here and ready to go. Okay, so we have our wires fed in here, and we've stripped all of the wires in the back, and we're going to go ahead and connect these together now. And we're going to use one of these, which is a low temperature solder connector. This has basically got a blob of low temperature solder in the middle. We're going to put all the wires in here and then use the heat gun, and it'll connect this together and fuse it so it's a nice solid waterproof connection. Each one of these is going to take a total of 4 wires, 2 in one side and 2 in the other, and we're splitting them up that way so that when we do use this and shrink it, it's a nice even seal all the way around. So as you can see, we have this set up here, and some of you might notice there's something weird going on here because the white wires feed along with the red, so we're actually splicing the white with the red. That's not a mistake. In actuality, the whole prop here was wired backwards, and I found that out while we were testing this, is that the whites are actually the positives and the reds are the negatives. So we have this connected so that all the positives together, and then later on we're going to do all the negatives. So if you want to get up here, Thornfeather, and get the heat gun and put it on here, we're going to get this connected. There you go. So go ahead and aim right there at the little blob of solder. Keep it on the center there for a bit until it melts. Keep going, keep going. Okay, now move it to the ends and seal those up nice. Go ahead and move to the other end. Good. And that should be it. Go ahead and turn it off. There we go. So as you can see, this is nice and solid. Once this cools a little bit, it's going to be a nice solid waterproof connection. So I'm going to take a couple seconds and join the other 4 wires, and then we're going to take our leads here and reassemble our battery compartment. Okay, so here we go. We have all our wires connected into our connections here. And as you can see, the white goes into the red and the red goes into the white. That should not be that way, but you'll see that when we actually test this, that's the correct way. So we're going to flip this around and go ahead, Thornfeather, you're going to actually test this out and make sure that everything is working. There we go. All of our LEDs are lit. They're looking great. You can see the one in the center is a slightly different shade, but it's not going to make a difference too much. It's just a slightly different brand of LED. All right, you can go ahead and let go there. And we're going to go ahead and assemble our battery compartment and get everything connected. Okay, so we have everything back together here. And I wanted to mention one thing before I go and show you the completed project. Because this has 3 AA batteries, it was originally a prop that was meant for 3 AA batteries. That means that the total power of the battery pack is putting out about 4.5 volts, which is too high for our LEDs. LEDs take a maximum 3 volts. So I had to figure a way to step this down from 4.5 to 3 volts. And in order to do that, I used a 220 ohm resistor, and I have attached that to the wires. I've also rewired the try me button so that is going now to the power out. And as you can see, it's all together here on the back. Everything is soldered up. And I used a liberal amount of the hot glue there to secure all the components. So we're ready to go. We're ready to test it. Thornfeather, why don't you go ahead and give this a shot there, try the switch and see if we're working. As you can see there, the LEDs are lighting up perfectly. They're looking great. Go ahead and switch that off and then go ahead and try the try me button. Awesome. See how that works? That bypasses the switch, so when the try me button is pushed, it completes the circuit and then powers those LED lights down there. So that's it. The only thing that's left is to put everything back together now. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to carefully put these wires back inside. Thank you. Why don't you go ahead and grab one of those screws and get it ready. Make sure all this is shoved down in there. Good. Lined up with the holes. There we go. So go ahead, let's start with one. And number two. You excited to see this one?
Yep.
Absolutely. It's great that we were able to save this one. You know, a lot of people, number three, a lot of people would just take this and pitch it out. Figure, you know, it's broken, it's not worth it, and it would go into a landfill. Instead, this prop gets a whole new life. Might not work the way it was intended originally, but, and then number four. For my purposes, it's going to be great. This is going to actually become an outdoor prop exclusively. I'm going to find a way to keep it upright so it doesn't blow over, so everybody can see this outside. There we go. And then we'll put the battery compartment in here. I'm going to take these batteries out for storage, but for right now, let's just put this in. There we go. All set. So let's give it a shot. There's the final product. So I wanted to thank you all for watching my video and subscribing and liking. If you haven't done so, please do so. That will help my channel grow. I always love having new subscribers, and I appreciate you being a viewer of my video. Thank you so much, and I'm Lord Raven. This has been Thorn Feather, and thanks for visiting.